Thank you for joining me today for session 5 of the Freedom Awaits Live Your Best Life Workshop 101. This is the final session of the course, and we're going to be covering finance part B. Please make sure you grab your workbook and we are going to get started. Go ahead and turn your books to page 26. We are going to pick up on credit and credit cards. So if we look at the quote on page 26, we will see the rich rules over the poor and the borrower becomes the lender's slave. When we take out a loan, get credit from someone, borrow something, we owe a debt. And so as we walk into this part of the course, we're talking about credit. And here we have the good, the bad, and the ugly. Credit and credit cards, loans of all types, they build up our credit score. But also with that comes debt. And so we have to be very careful on how we choose to use credit and credit cards as we go through life. There are a lot of companies out there that make tons of money, billions of dollars, on interest and fees from people not being able to pay their debts off quickly. Another quote in the book says, there are two kinds of people: those who earn interest and those who pay it. That's the fundamental difference between the wealthy and the desperate. What are your thoughts on credit and borrowing money? The wealthy continue to earn more money and to make more money because they are earning interest, not paying it on credit cards. So anytime that you are going to try to get credit or to open a new account of some sort, they are going to either do a hard credit pull or a soft credit pull. This could even be for car insurance. You need to know that any type of credit pull, if you give someone your name, your date of birth, and your social security number, they likely are going to pull your credit. This could even be for healthcare purposes. So it's really important that you do not allow people to pull your credit for just any reason. You only want your credit pulled if you are seeking a loan of some sort. So in the book I mentioned, do not allow people to deceive you that soft credit pulls do not hurt your credit. That is not true. Multiple soft pulls do hurt your credit score. If you tend to move frequently, like I have in the past, consider paying a deposit or get letters from previous utility companies to verify your credit history. Secondly, you need to keep your old credit lines open. If you close those old credit lines, they're going to hurt your credit score. Credit companies are looking for history, long history of assuming some debt and then paying it off, assuming some debt and paying it off. They want to know that you're reliable to pay off your debts. First question I have to ask is, do you have credit card debt? If you don't, awesome. If you do, we're going to be going over ways to get out of debt. Keep revolving credit balance on credit cards below 20% of credit available. Amounts higher than 20% will hurt your credit score. What is revolving credit card debt? So revolving credit card debt is any balance that is carried over from month to month. Revolving credit is that ongoing credit balance. Your daily average balance needs to be below 20% of your entire credit limit. So if my credit limit on my credit card is $500, I need to make sure that I am keeping my revolving credit, my normal monthly balance, under 20%, which is $100. Okay, if you are charging all the way up to your credit limit, you are hurting your credit score. So revolving credit accounts are your credit card accounts, any type of personal lines of credit, and home equity lines of credit. You also want to keep your credit utilization ratio below 30%, which is the total credit used below the total credit limit. Experian is a credit reporting company. They deal with finances, and according to them, your credit utilization ratio is the amount of revolving credit you're using relative to your total credit limits. A utilization ratio over 30% can hurt your credit score. In order to figure out your utilization rate, you want to divide your total credit card balances by your total credit limits. These terms, revolving credit and credit utilization, are very important in how our credit score is figured or calculated. Quick tip for credit cards: if you cannot pay the entire credit card bill at the end of the month, then you need to stop spending on that card until you can pay off the balance. If we do not have the money, we should not be spending it. Debt causes stress, and stress causes health problems and financial problems and marital problems and just problems in life in general. So it's very important that we really keep those credit cards in control if we choose to use them. If it is something that you are against, if it is something that you've had history with and you have had a really hard time with the credit cards, then it's best to cut them up and not use them. It is really important to never pay late fees, penalties, or interest, because it is wasted money. That doesn't mean that if you didn't pay your bill that you don't owe the late fee or the penalty or interest. It means pay your bills on time, set reminders, do what you need to do, set up automatic payments, whatever you need to do to make sure that your bills are paid on time so that you do not waste money from fees, penalties, or interest. You want to make sure that you only have 3 or less credit lines open. Mainly talking about credit cards here. So if you are using credit cards, make sure that you have 3 or less. If your monthly spending is high, then you may need to reassess your needs and your weeds. If we are spending a lot of extra money on weeds, we really need to consider what is important to us, what do we actually need, and to make those budget changes so that we can live a fuller life. If we are able to save money and keep our spending in check, we can learn to move mountains by having the stability of a financial foundation in our lives. It is great right now with phones and technology that we are able to use mobile apps to keep track of our spending on our credit cards. It is so easy to overspend if we're just handing the plastic and not really adding up those charges. It is too easy to spend a lot of money very quickly. So it's very important that you keep track of those balances and make sure you have it budgeted of what you're going to spend or charge for the month. If we look at page 27 near the bottom, on the last tip, consider using cash for budgeted categories that tend to be overspent. Highlight that. If a budgeting app is not working and you still find yourself at the end of the month not having enough money to pay your bills, try this last tip. The line item that you are overspending in, For example, a top one for some people is eating out. If you are overspending by eating out, either through DoorDash, Uber Eats, drive-thrus, morning coffee, whatever it is, set your budget that you can afford and use cash. When you actually see the cash coming out of your hand, the $10, the $20, the $50, whatever that number is, it really helps us stay on budget. Because when the cash is gone, there isn't anything else. Okay? So highlight that and really consider doing that if you're having trouble staying within budget on a regular basis. All right, time for you to check in and write something down. Do you know your credit score? If you are younger, in high school, for example, maybe even in college, you may have not begun to earn any credit yet. It is really important that you start doing little things. Speak with your parents, speak with your grandparents, find somebody to help you start building credit in high school and college. So that way, when you go out on your own and you're wanting to get your first car, you're going to be able to have a larger purchasing power by having a good credit score. So write down quickly, do you know your credit score? If you do, what is that number? There's lots of ways to get it now. A lot of banks offer it if you have a banking account. And are you happy with your credit score? All right, write any questions down that you have about credit cards. Make sure you put them in the comments below this video, or talk to somebody that you trust, either a financial advisor, a trusted friend, someone, and ask these questions. Get those answers. If I didn't explain something clear enough, please reach out. I can do a follow-up video. I can chat with you. I would love to help. Write down any action steps that you need to do today to either start building credit or to get your credit back on track. All right, turn to page 28. If you don't have any credit cards, do not skip this section. In fact, mark this section because you're going to need to come back to it at some point in time. Maybe not if you learned a whole lot and you've kept all these principles on the last page really close, near and dear, and you don't get into the credit card trap. If you are like me in my younger days, for a minute I had a lot of credit cards, over 5. That is not good for your credit. It's not good for you. So we are going to figure out this task that we're going to go through right now is going to help us figure out which credit cards do we close if we have more than 3. Your homework is to fill out that chart on credit cards if you have more than 3 lines. If you don't have more than 3 lines, I want you to fill in my example and come up with what you would keep and what you would get rid of and why. I want you to go through that mental process of what is a good card? How do I choose a good card? So my example is using fictitious information, stuff I made up, simple numbers so we can do the math fairly quickly. If you want to grab your calculator, you can check my math and also figure out how to do this on your own. All right, we have listed here, I put up here 5 credit cards. We are going to work on what are the top 3. Okay, Dillard's. The Dillard's card is looking with an interest rate of 24.49% interest. Owe $300 on it. The credit limit on that card is $1,000. Benefits, 2 times points. Opened it in 2018. It is a free card, so there's no cost. And my yearly reward based on what I'm spending is about $50. Okay? Look at the other ones. kind of peruse the chart, and then we're going to discuss what do you think we should do. All right, if we look at interest rates, which has the best interest rate out of the 5 cards? Correct, the MasterCard. The MasterCard has 9.9% interest. So that is a card we really want to keep in mind, as probably want to keep that one. If we just went by interest rates, we would choose to get rid of the top 2 with the highest interest rates. We've got to kind of look though, which are our old lines. Our old lines, and our oldest line is that MasterCard. Best interest rate, getting pretty good rewards. We do owe quite a bit on that, but we are below the 30% credit utilization on that card. So I would think the MasterCard is definitely a keeper. Next, if we're looking at interest rates and rewards, the Citibank Platinum, 15% interest. We are carrying a balance. We're getting 1 to 4% cash back. That is a pretty old line, and our yearly reward isn't too bad. So pretty much looking at this chart, which 3 would you keep and which 2 would you get rid of? All right, time is up. I would nix the Dillard's and the Target card. The lines aren't old enough. The interest rates are way too high. I would keep it, one of them, if I shop at Target all the time. If I shop at Target all the time and I'm actually getting more rewards than $180, I may actually keep that one and get rid of the American Express Silver. So here you have to kind of look at, what are you using the most? What is giving you the most benefit? If I'm not carrying a balance over every month, the interest rate doesn't really matter. So the interest rate is one of those things that isn't exactly the reason why we're going to get rid of the card. The date we opened it and the benefit is more important than the interest rate, as long as we're paying those cards off every single month. All right, here's some tips to raise your credit score. Number 1, pay off the balances. The cards with the lowest balances you want to pay off first. You're going to use that snowball debt plan that we covered in the last in session 4. 2, close any extra credit lines. If you have more than 3 credit cards open, you need to get those closed. 3, keep your monthly revolving balances below the 20%. Pay your bills on time. Don't be late. Don't be a day late. Don't be late. Avoid hard or soft credit pulls. Avoid credit pulls completely unless you have to do it for some reason. If we look at what can you do to raise your credit score, when we looked at those tips, what do you need to do to raise your credit score? Overall, credit and credit cards need to be used wisely. If using credit tends to get you in financial trouble, then you need to stop using credit. Remember, financial freedom takes away the ball and chain, while overspending creates a restricted life. It is your choice to be a slave to your desires or to be free to choose your path. Clear goals, budgeting, and savings generate true independence. Income taxes in business, in personal life, are something that's a part of our lives. I need help to make sure that I know all the latest rules, the new deductions, maybe deductions that went away, maybe something I hadn't heard of. So if we look at this, not one of us is as smart as all of us. So we want to make sure we're leaning on the professionals. We're leaning on other people to learn different ways to save on our income taxes, okay? tax implications affect our bottom line. We want to make sure that our withholding is correct every year. If we are single, our income taxes are going to be much higher. If we get married, we need to make sure that we update our forms to married so that the government will start taking less money for income taxes. Maybe they need to take more money for income taxes depending on our total income. So there's a lot of things that go on. It's just important that we keep up to date. If we have a child, if we add a dependent, we remove a dependent, if we get divorced and someone takes responsibility of a child or a grandparent, whatever it is important that we keep everything up to date and accurate. So at the end of the year, we don't get a large bill that we cannot pay. It is in your best interest to know what deductions you qualify for, and you want to maximize your deductions every year. You need to look at the federal side and the state side because the state side is all different depending on where you live. If you are fortunate to live in a state without state income tax, you have one less thing to worry about as far as having to pay those taxes or have to worry about those deductions. So if you have a business home office, you can take a home office deduction. You can write off part of your utilities, your property taxes, your insurance, all your supplies, your household printer and your paper and your ink and all these different things. Take the deduction. It's just a matter of saving some receipts and totaling up those at the end of the year and putting it in a form. If you do your own taxes or if you get a tax preparer, they will help you with that. The less our taxable income is, the less tax we are going to pay and the lower percentage we will pay. So it is important to get as many deductions as we can on our income. I highly recommend that you consult a tax advisor or an accountant early in the year and check for yearly updates as laws, rules, and your status changes. So every year, the government, either local, state, or federal, are making changes. And it is important that you know at the beginning of the year what is a deduction or coverable or not coverable for that year, so that you are prepared to keep the receipts that you need to keep to maybe it's time to do an upgrade on your home and there's a rebate or a tax deduction, and it might be the time to do that. If you don't know of these deals, then you won't be able to take part of them. And some of the stuff is very, very good. For example, there is a heating and cooling rebate. It's pretty significant, around $2,000 if you install a new heating and cooling system. There's a lot of different programs out there that can save you money and affect your bottom line. For income taxes, remember, pay what you owe. Don't put it off. The penalties and interest are not worth it. Do not pay more than you owe. The people, and this is very common, they get really nice big fat checks at the end of the tax year in the spring, as we always file our taxes before April 15th for the previous year. If you're getting a really large rebate or refund coming back from the government, you are allowing them to make interest on that money the entire year. That should be in your pocket. You should be making the interest. So think about that. You want to make sure that you are paying pretty much what you owe. Now, tax laws change a little bit, and maybe you missed something, or maybe they withheld a little more than you expected, so you kind of got maybe a little more at the end of the year than you were expecting. Hopefully you don't owe anything, so you don't have any penalties, but adjust it for the next year. Put a little bit more in savings. Maybe you can afford to get a little better insurance. Maybe there's some things that you can change so the government isn't making money on your money that you are making money on your money. Know your legal deductions and plan accordingly. Talk to that advisor. Do a quick search at the beginning of the year to get set for the upcoming year. Maybe ask when you turn in your taxes for the year to have them prepared. What is new for this year? Or when you pick them up, a quick question. Is there anything that I should be doing differently for this upcoming year for deductions or for whatever, withholding, whatever you need to do? As soon as you know your withholding has changed, make sure you update your W-4. With many companies utilizing online W-4 access, it is easy and quick to revise. Do not wait until the end of the reporting year to add the extra dependent or remove one. You're either going to owe money or you're going to get that really big fat check that you could have been utilizing that money every month. Saving money and investments. A diversified and balanced portfolio will give you multiple pockets with varied access, which can come in handy if needed. There are more types of funds and savings accounts available, but I will only be covering the more widely used types. Always do your homework and read the fine print before signing up for new investments. Know your rights and how to access your money. Diversify. And I'm going to say it multiple times. Diversify, diversify, diversify. It is so important that we diversify our investments, our savings, and our money. We do not, and this is an old saying, do not put all of your eggs in one basket. We don't want to have everything that we own all in one place. Because if disaster happens, whatever that is, we can go to the example of the bank account versus a credit card. If I have all my money in one bank account and a thief comes and steals that information, that bank account may completely disappear. If I have my money in a bank account and even another bank account, so I'm using two banks, now I have split how much is here and how much is here. If a thief comes in and steals this one, I still have this. I still can work with what is in this account. Okay, so we cannot run a financially free life that's happy and healthy if we are not diversified in our finances and our assets. Okay, so all right, 401ks. We're talking about 401ks, mutual funds, and money market accounts. There is quite a bit written here on page 29 and 30. I don't want to bore you by reading all of it, but I do want to point out a few things. A 401k is something that is offered by an employer, and a lot of times there are matching benefits that can be very beneficial and a great way to save money for retirement. When we get to the age of retirement, whatever we choose that to be, if we're aging out by years of service or by age with Social Security at 62, 65, 67, 70, whatever the number is, maybe you're in your 50s. Some people are able to retire in their 40s because they started really young out of high school. They put in their 30 years and they are 48 years old and they're retired. When we retire, especially if we retire young, even if we retire at 65 on Social Security for most people is not enough to live on. It's not enough to live comfortably on and to have the extras. It's going to be extremely tight if that's all I have is Social Security, especially if I didn't have a high income paying job. So it's important that we're investing money, we're saving money for retirement somewhere else, not just waiting on Social Security. For younger people, and even myself right now, Social Security is having issues and they keep saying, are we going to have enough money is it still going to be around when I hit retirement age, or you if you are younger? So it's important that we are saving. I am hopeful that the federal government will figure out Social Security and will keep that in place, because society can't function without it, and all of us that have paid into it should receive those benefits. 401ks, if an employer is matching, you want to make sure that you're matching that percentage. The cool thing about 401ks are it comes out of your check before income tax is figured. So that is money that is tax-free that you're putting aside. You will pay the taxes later. You're always going to have to pay taxes, but you will not be paying it now, and hopefully you will pay it later when your tax burden is less, and it will save you money. You will also be compounding the interest and earning more money over longer period of time. So 401ks can be a great way to invest your money through an employer if that is offered. Your employer matched investments grow exponentially, and they don't cost you anything, but you have to match. If the company will match 3%, you have to put 3% of your pay in there for them to put 3%. They're not just going to give you 3% if you put nothing. It's not how it works. It's a match. It's a percentage match. If there's matching 5%, put the 5%, they will put 5%. You're automatically saving 10% per month. The cool thing about today is you can change those investments a lot quicker than we used to before. Now you can go in and you can log into your account and you can adjust as you see fit. If you want to increase your deduction, your savings into these accounts, you can move funds, you can do, there's so much you can do now through the different web-based portals for 401ks. Most plans allow you to adjust them as needed. The last sentence of the second to last paragraph on page 29, get that highlighter out. Do not allow your life savings to disappear in a market crash. Diversify. Have that money in different baskets, different pots, however you want to call it, different places. All 401ks are a little bit different. They have different rules, different options, different ways to get your money, different ways to transfer money. So make sure you know your plan and the cost of services within that plan. If you leave your current employer who has a 401k, find out the process to get that money moved and choose where to move that money to. Let's look at how 401ks can benefit you. All right, I've got just some easy numbers here. If you're making $20,000 a year for yearly earnings, $50,000, $75,000, or $100,000, the percent invested, we're just doing 5% because employer is matching 3%. 5% is pretty common, 3%. A lot of employers now are actually going higher than 3%, but there are those more traditional companies and they are just doing the 3%. And then the free money is calculated based on what you are earning. Grab your calculator or your phone with your calculator, whatever you got. I want you to take 20,000 and I want you to multiply that times 5%. What is that number? I got 1,000. So if I have $20,000 that I make at the job I'm working and I put away 5%, it's going to come out of every little check that I get. At the end of the year, I am going to have pulled out $1,000. That's how much I have personally invested into my retirement. My employer is going to put 3%. So if I take that 20,000 and multiply that by 3%, what number is that? 600. My employer is going to give me free money, $600 of free money by encouraging me to save 1,000. So guess what? I'm going to end up saving, instead of just the $1,000 that I put aside, I'm going to save $1,600. Look at the chart. The more money you make, the more you're able to save, the more it's going to compound, which we're going to get into next. The more that you can put into your 401k, 5%, 10%, 15%, whatever the maximum amount is, the more money you're going to save, and the quicker you're going to create a lot of money saved and set aside for your retirement. We've got mutual funds. They are something that you purchase through a company that has nothing to do with your employer typically. So it might be through your bank, it may be through a financial company, and they are going to manage a portfolio, which is going to consist of stocks, bonds, other securities. So it's very similar to 401k, but it's something that you're going to set up on your own. So if the company you work out at does not offer a 401k, then you would probably want to look into some type of a mutual fund on your own. You're going to find a company or a person that you want to work with and you trust, and you're going to invest with them. A lot of money that is invested in a mutual fund is not going to have the tax deduction because you're going to be investing after tax dollars. Okay, so it's going to have a different tax implication. One nice thing about a mutual fund is when your employment changes, your mutual fund does not. The only time you would change your mutual fund is if for some reason you did not want to be with that company anymore and you chose to move your money to a different company. All right. There are also some money market accounts, which are saving accounts that are offered at some banking institutions. And a lot of times they'll have a higher interest bearing rate. So you can earn a little bit more money on interest. It's not going to be the interest that you're going to earn in a mutual fund or a money market account from a different type of a financial company. So look at those and see where is it best to put your savings to earn the best interest for you. Make sure that you look at, on any type of funds, savings type of funds or investments, what are the required minimum balances? What are the interest rate that they're paying you for your money? And then what is the withdrawal or access limitations of your money? Because you need to make sure that your money is accessible to you for when you need it, okay? And if it is insured, is it federally insured or is it not? And you're going to find that some accounts are and some accounts are not. And that it's going to hold more risk than other. There are also limits on how much they insure your accounts for. So if you're nearing over that limit, you may want to diversify and put some money in a different account. All right, let's look at this chart on investments, looking at your yearly earnings, how much you are investing. I want to show you the difference of saving 5% versus saving 10% a month. On $20,000 a year, if I'm saving 5%, that's $1,000 a year. If I can increase that to 10%, now I'm saving $2,000 a year. Huge difference, right? If I make $100,000 a year and I'm saving 5%, that's $5,000. If I'm saving 10%, it's $10,000. Let's look at the potential tax savings now. So we were talking about 401ks. The money comes out before they take federal taxes or state taxes. So not only am I putting money aside and investing that and earning interest in a savings account for me for when I retire, or if I need it because something serious happens, there are reasons you can withdraw. I'm putting that money aside though. The potential tax savings adds up also. So now I'm not only saving money for retirement, I'm also saving money today on taxes, which puts more money in my pocket to spend on a monthly basis. So on $20,000, I'm saving $1,000. Potential tax savings is $100. Yearly money saved, if I did the 10%, it's going to double my tax savings. And so you can see that the more I'm able to put away, the more money I put back in my pocket. Looking at this chart, if you're making $100,000 a year, saving 10%, you are saving a potential tax savings of $1,500 a year. The $10,000 that you're putting aside is saved for a rainy day. It's saved for retirement, okay? So that money can add up very quickly. Why do the wealthy keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer? Why is that? Because wealth builds wealth. And I hope that that last chart showed you when we start saving our money, it starts compounding interest and we start making more money. Compounding interest adds up quickly. I don't know if you know who Dave Ramsey is. In certain circles, he's very popular. There are a lot of things that we can learn from him, his principles, and his life experiences. He explains compounding interest by describing momentum. As long as you apply a hefty amount of strength, commitment, and focus, you will get momentum to work in your favor. The process of getting out of debt and building wealth is slow at first, but once you get a significant edge, things change quickly. Make the commitment to get out of debt and use compounding interest in your favor. And here's the quote I want you to highlight on your book in the middle of page 30. It takes 20 years of saving $325 per month at 12% interest to get the first $300,000. But the second $300,000 will be added to your account in just the next 5 years. Then almost another $300,000 will be there in just over 3 more years. Here is an example. If we save on a monthly basis and earn 8% interest, which is pretty common for any type of mutual fund or 401k investment, the compounding money that we are saving and the interest we are earning is wealth building. This is when we start breaking barriers in our lives. So if we look, and I did a 10-year, this graph shows 10 years, from 2022, when I started this business, to 2032. The blue line is saving $50 a month, brown $100, kind of a rust color is $200, gray $500, and blue, teal blue, is $1,000 a month. Look at the difference over 10 years of what $50 a month will save you compared to what $1,000 a month will save you. It may seem out of reach right now to be able to put $1,000 a month away, but I am telling you, if you follow these principles that are taught in this course, you will see that day. That is a reality you can have. And it doesn't mean you have to make over $100,000 a year. It doesn't mean your family has to make that kind of money. It's all about spending, budget, and bills. Okay, it's our cost of living versus what we make. So look at 2032. If we look at 2032, we can see if we had saved $50 a month over 10 years, that number is very low. If we had saved $1,000 a month, we are almost at $225,000. That curve is exponential. Instead of growing a little bit, it is growing a lot because of the compounding interest. They both start off with similar curves, but at a point the gap starts to widen, and that widening gap is what makes the difference between the wealthy and the poor. All right, let's get this down to how do you go from $50 a month to $1,000 a month? How do you save more? First of all, think about this question. What could you save if you did not have a car payment? Many people are paying for a car payment, just the payment for the car. I'm not talking about insurance or maintenance or anything, just for the car, anywhere from $200 to $1,000 a month. just for a car payment. I'm not saying you don't need transportation, but what's wrong with driving a car that's paid for than having a brand new car that you can't afford? What could you save if you did not have a housing payment? What if you could stay at home a little longer while you saved up money to pay for a car to get a place? Maybe you can get a roommate to cut costs. There are so many things, but think about it. What could you do if you did not have a housing payment? Do these options explain the importance of delaying gratification and financial freedom? As I showed you on the graph, when we start saving, there is a small gap between $50 a month and $1,000 a month. Even though it's 20 times the amount, the gap is still small at the beginning. But over time, that gap grows tremendously. And once you get to a certain point, the compounding interest makes such a huge difference. Time starts being compacted and it takes much less time to gain wealth. The bottom of the page, it asks you, how much can you afford to save per month? This doesn't matter if you are a student. It doesn't matter how old you are. Top of page 31. What could you use your savings for? What do you need in your life that is going to take time and commitment and money to get? Do you need a car? Do you need a new pair of shoes? Do you need a computer? Do you need money to go to school? What is it? Is there anything you can do to increase your savings per month? Are there any changes in your budget that you can do? Is there a job that you can get? What do you typically do with extra money earned or received throughout the year? Do you get money for your birthday? Do you get a bonus at work? Do you get an income tax rebate at the end of the year? Think about all the times throughout the year that you get money and what do you do with it? What would happen, last question, if you decided to always save 10% of all income earned, even the gifts, even the bonuses that you earned or received? What would happen? What would change? What financial stability would you have in your life by having that money set aside? Now I want to talk about an investment called a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. These are individual retirement accounts that are used for people who do not have an employer that is offering a 401k, maybe do not work. If you want to start earlier, this might be an option for you. And those limits change every year. This slide was done previously, and so it is not correct. And you will be looking at those current numbers because they change all the time. So for the example, you can put in $6,000 a year into a traditional or a Roth IRA. The difference between the traditional and the Roth IRA is the traditional is you get a tax break, so you're not going to pay income tax on that this year. The Roth, you are going to pay tax, and then you're going to put the money in. So you will not, at one point on a traditional IRA, you're going to pay tax when you withdraw the money. So whenever you retire, if there is a significant reason that you need to take the money out, then you would pay it at that point. On a Roth IRA, you're going to pay the tax now, and you're not going to pay the tax later when you withdraw. Now, if you withdraw early on either one, you're going to have to pay a penalty. Okay, so there's going to be a penalty if you withdraw early, if you do not have a specific qualified reason to withdraw that money. And it's got to be something like a major disaster, a major medical problem, your house burns down, something like that. Then those will be reasons that you could withdraw the money. But pretty much you are saving this for your retirement, and you're either going to pay taxes now or later. Okay, so if we look at the two though, yearly contributions of $6,000 into either account, using the current year tax of contribution rate times the tax rate used, I'm using 15%, which is kind of in the middle. You would save on a traditional IRA $900 in taxes for that year. On the Roth, you're not going to save that money because you're going to pay it. So you're going to pay the $900. And then you're going to withdraw. If you withdrew at a time where you're in a lower tax bracket and your tax bracket was only 10%, you would pay $600 in taxes on that $6,000. And on the Roth, of course, you don't pay anything because you've already paid the taxes. But we can see that you would actually save about $300 in taxes because you're deferring the tax until later, and you're hoping the tax rate will be lower at that point. It may not be, it might be. Tax rates could go up, tax rates probably aren't going to go down. But hopefully you'll be in a lower tax bracket to where that tax would be lower. Interest earned per year is going to be the same. So you are going to earn right now anywhere, it's not very much, it's between 0.1% and a 1.15%, so not very much interest on these. So as far as earning a lot of money on this, your compounding interest is going to be very minimal on an IRA. They do have some new CDs that you can put your IRA into a CD, and those are earning closer to 4%. You are not going to see returns like 8, 10, 12% that you would see in a mutual fund or a 401k. So you are going to have much less earning potential on a traditional or Roth IRA of this kind, okay? Grab your phone, your computer, something that you can do a quick search. On page 32 at the top, I need you to look up what are the current contribution limits for IRAs. So you can just search IRA contribution limit for this year. So write down the year, type in the year, and write that number down. So write the year, and then the annual limit, and then the IRA catch-up limit. So if you're over a certain age and you're nearing retirement, right now it might be, I think it's over 55, you are able to contribute more. So I think it's $7,000 and then $7,500 if you're over a certain age limit. But write those down and note that you need to check that on a yearly basis because those limits change. We're on to real estate and property investments. This is another way to save money and to build wealth. Not all real estate or property investments are good. So it's really important that you're very careful when you decide to go this route, and you do your homework and you make sure you're investing in something that is going to be worthwhile. All right. Rental properties can bring in extra income. You want to make sure that you do a lot of research and you find an honest property manager. You want to make sure that you have a minimum of 6 months savings when you own multiple properties. So when we talk about budgeting and saving, you want to make sure that you're shooting for that 3 months of cash money of all your living expenses. Then you want to get to 6 months. If you are going to invest in multiple properties, you need to make sure you have a minimum of 6 months full living expenses to cover if anything happens, okay? And you want to have enough money for your personal expenses and your property expenses of the new property. Remember, any loans you take, any credit you take, you are responsible for, okay? So you are responsible to make those minimum payments. We have had long-term and short-term rentals. We have managed themselves. We've had property managers. You have to decide, if you have rental properties, how much time you want to invest, and if you're going to have someone do it for you or if you're going to do it yourself. You need to make sure that you have the time and that you're willing to educate yourself on what needs to be done and how things can be managed if you're managing your own rental properties. Okay, read the rest on your own, but I will tell you that property can be a great investment because of the way property values are going up. Those can be sold later. You can use it for business. There's a lot of different things that people can use. At the top of page 33, these are question and answers here. Do you own a rental property? Yes or no? Do you own property already that possibly could generate some income? Could you lease out that property for some reason? Could you put on a rental unit on that property? Is there a way that that property could be utilized to generate some income? Maybe it could provide affordable housing for someone. And do you have a minimum of 6 months of expenses saved? Because you really need to have that in order to move forward as looking at real estate or property investments. And then write down any thoughts or questions that you may have on real estate or property investment. So if we look at a cost analysis of a piece of property that you might be considering and investing or thinking of for the future, it's really important to look at the rental income, the average rental rate of the area that you could get for this property. You also want to look at the monthly cost. What is the payment, the taxes, the insurance, the utilities, a manager if needed, and then any other costs. You're going to take that rental income, subtract the costs. That is going to give you your net actual income that you would make on a monthly basis if the property was rented on a regular basis. Is the property worth becoming a rental? If you are not making any income, it's not worth the risk. All right, we have an HSA and an FSA. HSA is short for Health Savings Account, and FSA is short for Flexible Savings Account. Both are health savings accounts that we can use for health supplies, co-pays, medical bills, things that have to do with medical and health, okay? And so these are something that I learned about more recently, and we have been utilizing the last probably about 5 years, and it has become a wonderful saving tool. It's one more pot of money. There are just two major differences between the two, and you need to know that, and you need to know what you qualify for and how you can use these. If we look at the definition from the Internal Revenue Service, a health savings account is a tax-exempt trust or custodial account set up with a qualified HSA trustee to pay or reimburse certain medical expenses you incur. You must be an eligible individual to qualify for an HSA. A health flexible spending arrangement allows employees to be reimbursed for medical expenses. FSAs are usually funded through voluntary salary reduction agreements with your employer. No employment or federal income taxes are deducted from your contribution. The employer may also contribute. So, a lot of jargon there. What does it mean? It means that you can put aside money into one of these accounts for your medical expenses. Sometimes where you work, they will offer one or the other, or maybe both, and it usually depends on the type of insurance you have. If you don't have it through your employer, check to see if maybe there is an option available for you through another resource, through an insurance company or through the state or something else. So check into that. HSA is if you have a high deductible insurance plan, you will qualify for a health savings account. And one great thing about that is that money just keeps growing. It's there and it keeps growing. You don't have to use it every single year. An FSA, a flex spending account, which is if you have typically insurance that doesn't have a high deductible, you have to use whatever money you set aside within that year. Both have limits on how much you can set aside. All of this money is going to be put aside tax-free. So it's going to come out of your paycheck before you pay taxes, okay? Depending on the insurance that you have, usually will limit to which account you can have. I currently have an FSA, and the current contribution limit for a family is $3,050 for the year. So if I wanted to, I could put that much aside to pay for medical bills. Now with an FSA, I have to be very careful because I can only carry over so much. It used to be you couldn't carry over any, and all of your unused funds were relinquished. In other words, they were just, the company got to keep them. That is not the case anymore. There is a carryover limit, and it's changing every year, so you'll need to look that up. On an HSA, the limit is much higher. When I did this slide, $7,750 for a family. That money does not have an expiration date, and it will just continue to be there whenever you need it. Okay, so the tax savings are quite significant. I went ahead and used 12% tax savings rate, 12% of the $3,850. So if you take $3,850 times 12%, you should come up with $462. If I'm able to put aside $1,000 for the year at 12% tax savings, it's still going to save me $120. That's $120 that stays in my pocket that I can use for maybe to pay my electricity bill for the month. So you have to think about that. Every time that we are saving tax money, that we are putting money aside for our medical bills, whatever it is, we are saving money somewhere else because things happen. People get sick, accidents happen, people lose jobs, disaster strikes. And when those things happen, we need to be able to fall back on something. Grab your either a phone or a computer and look up and fill in page 34. Are you currently using an HSA or FSA to reduce your taxable income? What are your average yearly medical expenses? You need to know that if you're getting an FSA. If you're getting a flex savings account, you need to know what your medical expenses are on average or what you're planning to have this year. So that way you're only going to put aside that amount of money because you can't roll over all of it. Okay? Estimate your medical costs for the upcoming year, because that number might be different than what your average is. And then write your contribution limits. Write down what year it is and what are the contribution limits right now for the HSA and the FSA. Calculate your savings. If you're going to put aside $1,000, what is the current tax bracket you're in? And how much is that going to save you this year? And could it be a benefit for you? All right, we are down to insurance. How does insurance affect us and our lives? There are so many different types of insurance: health insurance, life insurance, disability, auto, mortgage, home, renters. A lot of these insurances are non-negotiable in the US today. For example, most places you rent out anymore require renter's insurance. If you have a vehicle, you have to have insurance. Even if your vehicle is paid off, you still have to have insurance. So it is important that you're able to get good rates with insurance that has good benefits. We want to keep our costs low, and with a lot of rising costs, there are things that you can do to try to keep those costs reasonable. One thing I want to mention, and this is on page 35 of your workbook, is poor insurance can cost you more in the long run if you are not careful. Look at the benefits that are offered and what coverage you actually have. Just because you're paying a premium does not mean that you have good insurance or that what you're covering is even covered. So make sure you read all the fine print and you find an agent who you trust. One example that I really want to talk about is health insurance, because health insurance can be extremely costly if you have to go to a hospital. So medical bills, surgeries, emergency services, things like that can get costly very quickly. upwards of $10,000 or more can become a bill that you receive if you don't have good insurance. The example I give in the workbook is looking at two different insurance companies. So if you look at the graph, we have an insurance cost analysis, and I just did insurance company A and B, showing the monthly premium, which the premium is the cost per month. This would be like a family plan. Not much difference between the two premiums. So it's only $40 difference a month that it's going to cost you for the A or the B plan. But which plan is actually better? And this is going to depend on what you're going to use the insurance for and what the insurance actually covers. So the yearly insurance premiums, we just multiplied the monthly premium times 12, because there's 12 months in a year, to get your yearly premium. And then we have the cost for an ER visit. And I picked this one because these are emergency services that happen, that are not planned for, that can happen and can be extremely expensive. If you need an ambulance, a helicopter, maybe you drive yourself to the emergency room, these bills can add up very quickly. And a lot of times they are life-threatening. So if we look at the cost for the ER visit based on Plan A, the cost was $1,000 out of pocket. The cost for the ER visit on Plan B was only $250. So sometimes this is your deductible. Sometimes it's going to be your deductible plus any co-pays or co-insurance. And so it's really important to look at the difference of these plans. So even though Plan B cost more per month, with one ER visit for the year, the total cost of care for that year of the premiums plus that one ER visit, it came out to $6,490. On the less expensive plan, it ends up actually costing you more. And this is just going to the ER one time. And in this case, this ER bill was high of $1,000, but not as high as I have seen. I have seen ER visits, even with a copay, be upwards of $6,000 to $10,000 of the patient's portion. If you add that on top of your yearly premiums, your cost of care is going to be extremely high. This right here can put a lot of strain financially on your health and your overall stress if you get bills that you're not expecting that are really expensive. Next, you want to make sure that when you hire a company for any type of insurance, health insurance, auto, life, that you want to be hiring them for a year or longer. The longer you have coverage with a company, the better rates you're going to get. If you jump around every single year to a new company, you're not going to get as good of rates as if you stayed with a company for a longer period of time. So think about that when you're choosing to get an insurance company that you're going to partner with, that you choose someone that you trust and that is giving you good benefits. All right, looking at the bottom of page 35, do you need to revisit or adjust your insurance coverage? So a lot of questions in there of what do you cover, how much, things. Talk to somebody, look that up. If yes, which one? Is it health? Is it life? Is it auto? Is it home? Which kind of insurance? Circle that. And then when is the open enrollment period for your health insurance? So with other companies besides health insurance, you can cancel them or get a new policy at any time. Even if you've paid for the year, you can still get your money back. With health insurance, it's a little bit different. There are rules to when you can get insurance and when you can cancel insurance. So check into that and make sure that you know when your open enrollment period is, which is when you can actually change plans. You can make changes to your health insurance options. That also goes for your disability and life insurance if it's through your company. where you work. Also be careful, because when you change insurance companies, a lot of times they're going to pull your credit. Maybe a hard pull or a soft pull, which will hurt your credit score. Questions to consider before we jump out of insurance. Are all insurance plans created equal? Definitely not. What are your health insurance needs? If you need any type of prescription drugs, what is the prescription plan going to cover, especially if you're taking them on a regular basis? If you have something that is more where it can be emergency services, then you want to look at a plan that has a really good emergency room coverage. Maybe you need a surgery. Maybe it has to do with pregnancy and you're expecting to start a family and have children. Then it is really important that they have really good pregnancy and maternity coverage on your plan. Are your needs covered? No matter if you have a state-funded insurance program, health insurance program, or private insurance, are your needs covered? Are your needs covered when we talk about disability or life insurance or auto insurance? You need to make sure that you and your assets are covered. All right, we are on to the last portion. In order to live our best lives, we're going to live them here on earth. And then when we pass away, we need to make sure that our loved ones are taken care of. We need to make sure that our wishes are honored at that point in time. So we're going to talk about wills, living trusts, and powers of attorney. First of all, what is a will? A will is a written document that explains who gets what when you pass away. It also can talk about property, things you own. What happens to your social media accounts? What do you want to do with your, we call them digital assets now. What about your accounts? Who's going to pay your final bills? Who's going to take over any payments owed or whatever if something happens to you? A living trust is a similar document. It's a little bit different. It's set up through an agency. A lawyer would be doing that, and they are going to set up a living trust. For a lot of it is for tax purposes. If you use there's different kinds of living trusts. I don't want to go too deep into it in this. This is kind of a broad overview, but there could be some tax breaks on that of ways to transfer assets. So if you have assets that are over $50,000, consider a living trust or some other things that you can do between wills and then deeding property and things like that. Both documents, a will or a living trust, is really important for your loved ones, even if you have no assets. If you don't own anything of significant value, then a will is nice to have to explain your final wishes. Would you like to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? Is there a specific type of memorial service that you would like? Do you want them to have a celebration of life? Kind of explain that in your will. It really helps your loved ones during a very stressful time. Death is very stressful for people, and it's nice to have things in writing, even the simplest things. What about your pet? If you have a pet, who's going to take care of your pet? And so please take the time to create a will. So if we look at page 36, we talk about these end-of-life questions and thoughts that we need to consider. So power of attorney is there's different kinds of them. You're going to assign someone the right to make decisions for you in the event that you're not able to. So here we go. We have a list: a durable financial power of attorney, a durable health care power of attorney. So a financial one is going to give someone, if you are unable to take care of these things on your own for physical or mental reasons, you would appoint someone to take care of your accounts. So they would be able to financially pay your bills, receive money, deposit money, things like that. A healthcare power of attorney is going to give someone right to see your to see all your medical records, to make decisions for your health, your will or living trust, and then your digital wishes upon death. For example, all your different online accounts, social media, websites, banking, things like that. What do you want to happen with those items in the event that you are unable or that you pass away, that someone is going to take care of that? Write down any documents that you do not have and things that you need to either complete or update, because these are going to change over time. Beneficiaries. Beneficiaries is a word that means who gets the money or assets when you pass away. And you're going to see beneficiaries listed on bank accounts, life insurance policies, any type of other insurance policies. A beneficiary is who do you want the assets or the money to go to when you pass. And so you need to make sure that you ask for those questions, that you write down who you want those beneficiaries to be, to make sure that it's in the system. And make sure that the people know, if they are listed as a beneficiary, that they know that you have a life insurance policy, or that you have some type of a bank account or investments that they would inherit. Beneficiaries will help alleviate a lot of issues transferring those assets that don't have to go through some type of probate or court. And some of them, like life insurance policies, it's not part of the will. It doesn't go through court or probate, and those insurance payouts would just go directly to the heir who is listed, so the beneficiary that is listed on the policy. Make sure you keep your beneficiaries updated when you have significant life changes, for example, birth of children, marriage, death of a relative, acquirement of property or new debt. You may need to change those amounts or those limits. Quick question on page 37. Do you need to add or update your beneficiaries? If so, kind of write yourself a note there of which ones you need to take care of, or you need to check to make sure that they are current. And then set a date and time to complete this task. Sometimes we can have someone else hold us accountable, and other times we need to hold ourselves accountable so we get things done. So make sure that you check your beneficiaries and make sure that's how you want that to be. We are near the end, and I have to talk about a spending cleanse. Living in the United States of America, it is so easy to spend money. With Amazon at the tip of your fingers, DoorDash, a gas station on every corner in the city, it is so easy to leave your house, spend money, and it's just gone. And that negates all the work that you're doing to try to save money, to get out of debt, to create a financial foundation in your life. If you're finding that your spending is out of control, it is time to stop and reset. I ask these few questions on page 37. Do packages frequently show up on your doorstep? Are you running out of space in your house because of treasures? If that is true, either one of those, maybe it's time for a spending cleanse. Take a specific number of days or weeks and stop spending money. It will help you find the true value and what is important. Don't buy anything. Eat what you have that you already have on hand in your freezer, your pantry, the refrigerator, leftovers, whatever. Maybe you need to go next door and eat at your friend's house. I don't know, but stop spending. Finish using all the bottles of soap, shampoo, conditioner, lotion that you already have before buying another bottle. This is where we can learn to be frugal and creative, and it helps us get our spending under control. Reevaluate where you are and where you're going, and then really look at your goal again and rededicate yourself to that goal. All right, stay focused and positive. Take one day at a time. Keep moving forward. Have your goals, do your baby steps, and I promise you will see an achievement. You will see success in your financial freedom. Home and car maintenance. This is so important. And sometimes this is where things fall through the cracks, We get busy, we put things off, maybe we don't have the money in the budget. This is something that we can plan ahead for and save ourselves so much money. Maintenance is required to keep everything in working order, from our homes to our cars to anything that we use on a regular basis. If we maintain it and take care of it, even down to our clothes and our shoes, they're going to last longer and we're going to get a lot more use out of them. And if we do need to repair it, it's going to cost less than replacing the entire item. And there's regular scheduled things for your, for example, for your home. It's really important that you change your furnace filters. If you have a furnace or an air conditioner, it's very important that you change those filters on a regular basis. Figure out what is the schedule for your household and make sure that you do that. There are other things like making sure that your faucets aren't dripping, that they're working properly. They turn on and they turn off. Dripping faucets waste a lot of water, which increases your water bill. Your electricity. Are you using your electricity wisely, or are your electrical bills extremely high? Do the things to get those electrical bills down. Figure out, can you update your light bulbs? Can you turn things off? Do you need a new refrigerator? What is causing the issue to create your bill to be so high? If you turn to page 38, there is a place to fill in what are the top maintenance items that need to be completed for your home. So I wanted you to think about where you live. What things at home need taken care of? Is there a toilet that's not working properly? A faucet leaking? Have you checked your furnace or your air conditioner unit? Is there a hole in the wall or in a window that needs to be fixed to keep out the bugs or to keep the heat in or out or the cold in or out? Look at all those different things and think about what needs done in your home. If you're in a rental, it is important that you turn those requests that need fixed to the landlord or the company that's running the rental property, because that is their responsibility. If your dishwasher is not working, it is their responsibility to fix that dishwasher. So if you're in a rental, write down the things that need fixed and put in those requests with the office or however your the property takes those requests and get those things done. The second section is what maintenance needs done on your transportation. So whatever you're using to get to or from work, school, whatever your daily activities are, what maintenance needs to be done? Do you need tires? Does your vehicle need oil? Do you need a bike lock? What are the things that you need for your transportation? We need transportation to get to and from work and school and for the different things to get groceries and things like that. So we need to make sure that we are maintaining those modes of transportation. If you're riding the bus, maybe you need to get a pass that's on a monthly pass that's going to save you money instead of paying for each bus ride. Schedule a time to complete the tasks, estimate your costs, and put them in your budget. Start budgeting your maintenance costs for the year into your budget. Retirement. When do you plan to retire and how much money will you need? That is like a huge question. And financial advisors, or their numbers are going to be all over the place. Some are going to say millions and some are going to, it's all over. It really depends on the lifestyle that you lead and how long you live. So the word retirement is defined as the action or fact of leaving one's job and ceasing to work. This doesn't mean that we are to stop living. It doesn't mean that we retire from our working years and we sit in a chair and we watch TV all day. That is not what retirement is. It is for some people. Some people choose that lifestyle, and some people have no other choice because their finances are so minuscule that they're not able to do anything else. But the word retirement means to leave a job and to cease to work at that particular job. Retirement is a time for you to do what you want to do. It is a time that you are able to give back, that you can volunteer, that you can work on hobbies. There are so many things that you can do in retirement. There are so many things that our retired population can do for community, that they can do for their families. Maybe they are working with their grandchildren. Maybe they are volunteering at the senior citizen center. There's so many things that retirement can do that can open doors to travel and experiencing life together with other people. If you have the finances to retire well, you are going to be much happier and healthier. Planning and budgeting for retirement can help you achieve your goals. It may even open up the possibility of retiring early. The bottom of page 38. Where do you want to live when you retire? Write that down. Where could you see yourself in retirement? Maybe you're going to stay in your same community. Maybe you want to move to another state. Maybe you want to move abroad. There are a lot of possibilities out. Maybe you want to get an RV and travel across the U.S. There's lots of different options and things out there. And if you have kind of a goal in mind, it will help you figure out how much money you need and when you can retire. Is the cost of your intended retirement living sustainable? If you have a very minimal lifestyle, the amount of money you need is going to be much smaller, and you're going to be able to live a lot longer on that amount of money. If your needs or your lifestyle spends much more, you're going to need a lot more money. So really think about that. Is the cost of your entire intended retirement sustainable? All right, we have some tips on page 39. These are huge, and I want you to get your highlighter out. Live on your expected retirement budget for 3 years prior to retiring. A wonderful accountant that I knew for a very long time told me that a long time ago. And we had lots of conversations about a lot of different financial topics. And I'll tell you, that is the one that stuck with me, because our income near retirement age is typically going to be much higher than it has ever been, just based on the normal business structure in America. Very few people can sustain that income in retirement. And so it's very important, 3 years prior, if you start working on going on the budget that you're going to live on in retirement, you're going to be able to save more money. It gives you time to adjust. It gives you time to make the oopsies and to get back on track. And it also lets you settle in to that different lifestyle. Number 2, aim to have your debt to income ratio at 0% by retirement. You want to try to have no car payments, no house payments, no credit card payments by the time you hit retirement. The only thing you would have would be your normal utilities and insurance and groceries as far as bills. You want to reduce your living expenses. It's time to start reducing what you're paying. Maybe you don't need 5 premium TV services. Maybe you only need 1. Maybe you're going to have 1 plus you're going to get an antenna so you can get local channel. Okay, so start thinking about ways can I reduce my living expenses. Maybe I don't need a really large house anymore if there's only 2 living at home. Maybe it's time to downsize. Maybe it's time to rent the main house and get something smaller. Maybe it's time. There's so many things that you can do, but really look at what are the things you can do to reduce your living expenses. Number 4, use a Social Security retirement benefits estimator or calculator to kind of see what are your Social Security benefits going to be. That's going to help you see how much is going to be in that budget, your monthly budget. You can also request a Social Security statement showing your expected benefits. So go on to socialsecurity.gov and request that. Estimate how much monthly income you will need in retirement based on your needs and not based on a general formula. I say that because, like I said in the beginning, financial advisors and what they tell you you need varies from a little to a whole lot, and more are going to say a whole lot because the more you invest with them, the more money they make. So you need to really know how much do you need. Know the current laws and keep up to date on IRA funds in regard to required withdrawals and penalties. So when we get to a certain age on 401ks and I think it's mainly IRAs, they're going to make you do withdrawals, a certain percentage per year. So look at how you're going to withdraw that money and kind of put that into the budget of your retirement budget. And then last one is create a tentative budget, retirement budget. So here I have an example of a retirement budget worksheet. It's on the bottom of your page 39, and you're pretty much going to have all the money in. It's very similar to your budget that we did previous, but as you can see, this is more condensed because we are thinking ahead. 10 years, 20 years, maybe 40 years. If you are in high school or college, your retirement is going to be 25 to 40 years. So we're projecting forward. This is just general. Cost of living is going to change, I understand. But at least you start getting some ideas of kind of like, how much money should I be putting in? So Social Security is going to be the money in. Any pensions, if you work we still have government pensions, education. There's still some in the sectors like firefighters and police officers. So if you're going to, in a career field that has a pension, you would put that in there. Any rental income, if you have any rental properties. Then your IRA withdrawal, I put the 4% of total because a lot of times that is the required withdrawal amount, but you could put whatever number there. And then you have, if you are married, you would have a spouse Social Security and possibly a spouse pension. You could add, if there are IRA withdrawals for your spouse, that would go in there also, or you could combine it on the one line. Your money out is going to be whatever you have for housing, if you're renting, if you still do have a mortgage, and then taxes, insurance, groceries, transportation, utilities. These are kind of just bundles. Dining, travel, entertainment, medical, home and clothing, repairs, and allowance. You're going to add up your total expenses, and that will give you pretty much how much money is coming in and how much money is going out. Your money left over, of course, is your total income minus your expenses. Your calculation for monthly savings for retirement, this is a generic multiplier that gives you a good average at best, but it does give you a number. So if you put in your annual retirement income amount, so how much money would you need per year in retirement? If I need an extra $1,000 a month to live comfortably in retirement, I'm going to need $12,000 for a year. So I'm going to take $12,000, I'm going to divide that by 0.08, which is going to give me my nest egg needed. So 12,000 divided by 0.08, that is going to give me 150,000. I'm going to multiply that times the factor of 0.005466. That is going to give me the monthly amount to savings for retirement that I need. This is based on about 10 to 15 years in retirement. This is kind of a general thing. I looked at a lot of different books from financial people in the field, and this was kind of like a pretty standard, like I said, average kind of thing. It's showing that I need about $150,000, and I'm going to need to be putting away around $820 a month. In the end, what are you going to pass on? What will be your dynasty? When we have left the earth, what have we passed on? Is it traditions and customs? Who's carrying the torch? Who are we going to pass that torch to? I hope that you will take the time to think about your dynasty, what your life will imprint on, the effect that you will have on your family and friends and your community. Remember, without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. We are not here on earth to stagnate, to sit still. We are here to grow and to progress. We were created to be vibrant and joyful and helpful to those around us. All right, your homework. Make sure you go back and you check your spiritual and your health goals. Adjust if you need to. Go back and check your budget. All this new information add to it, change it, fix it. Act on any credit cards and loans if necessary. Adjust your insurance. Get insurance if you don't have any. Apply for an HSA or an FSA if it's available to you. If you qualify and you're in an open enrollment window, try to add that this next time. Start saving money today. Even if it's just a few pennies, start saving today. What's next? Well, take time to implement what you've learned. Act on your to-do list and revisit your goals regularly. What if you still have questions? There's a lot of information in this course and I try to condense as much as I could, but what if you still have questions? Contact me. Attend another workshop or class. Ask a specialist in the specific field that you need help with. Seek more information on the top. Here's my contact information if you need it. And here are the references used in this book. In conclusion, choose someone or a set of carefully selected people in your life to act as a mentor, a friend, or a confidant to lean on when life struggles seem too big. These people in your life will breathe life into the situation and provide wisdom in times of need. Benjamin's famous quote applies to our cornerstones of faith, health, and finance. An investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. Remember that our foundation will be solid if we dedicate our lives to learning and applying these principles. We must continue to learn and modify as needed. We can't just set it and forget it on how we eat, on the exercise that we do, that the just showing up to work or showing up to school. We can't just set and forget and just coast because things change. Sometimes we need more sleep. Sometimes I need to drink more water. We need to be able to grow and adjust, modify and learn. Different stages of life and circumstances and choices impact our lives, and sometimes they require us to pivot. We have to change. We have to adjust. Seek others that will push you and positively impact your life. This is how companies become huge. This is how you see Amazon go from struggling to everywhere. This is how we see people climb mountains that never thought were possible. As a team, and we work together, we are going to accomplish 10 times, 100 times what we could on our own. So reach out to those around you. Seek others to help. Ask questions. I hope that all that you learned and throughout this course positively impacts your life. Don't forget to leave me any comments, any questions, and reach out. I am always available. I hope you have a great day.